Blizzcon 2019. Will it be the worst PR disaster in gaming history? How could it be any worse than last year? Well, I think we have an indication of why it could be, because
you guys not even have phones?
Yeah, if you had a phone, you'd know this, AWOL.
I don't have phones because the Chinese government doesn't allow me to have one. Oh, wait a minute. Blitzchung was fired. Casters were fired. Chinese censorship is in place. People are revolting on Reddit. Hundreds of thousands of upvotes against Blizzard. Senators are weighing in on this, taking a digital dump all over Blizzard Entertainment. Collegiate leagues for Hearthstone are getting in the game. This is PR nightmare fuel. Welcome to the digital dump, not to be mistaken with a very reputable podcast called The Digital Drop, which is, by the way, the #1 podcast for gaming creators where we help you make gaming content full-time. This is a totally different podcast, okay? My name is Andrew Wall. I'm Galactic VP of Censorship, and I'm joined, as always, by Andrew Perrin, Dumpster Fire Manager. How you doing?
I'm managing the dumpster fire as best I can, but it's really out of control. Someone pass me an extinguisher, please.
Ross, A, Dylan, everyone's favorite scapegoat. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. You know, it's funny. Perrin called me everyone's favorite scapegoat, and it took me back to when on VGF Gamers, when I would actually post like news articles, and then people would send me death threats through DM as if I caused whatever was going on in the article.
You were personally responsible for those, Ross.
I know.
By tweeting it, you take your own responsibility.
It's like I don't even write copy when I post out the news article. I just post it out there and let everybody else form their own opinion. I get death threats for it. So cool. Yeah, everyone's favorite scapegoat. Let's do this.
They figure it'll trickle down to like the person it needs to, right? Because you're pretty high up there ranking. You're not that good of a Twitter account. So.
Oh, right.
It's the death threat trickle down effect. Yeah. Everybody we read about that in the books in college. It's taught in class for sure. So if you guys don't know what we're talking about here, why BlizzCon 2019 could be so explosive, such a PR nightmare, let me just cue it up for you. Just a minute or two of background. Skip ahead if you already know the deal, guys. But basically, Blitzchung, who is a professional Hearthstone player in China, a Hong Kong resident, was at a grand finals tournament in China, and he went ahead and, in his post-game interview, put on a gas mask and said a statement, which was the tagline of the protests in Hong Kong against the Chinese government. And the folks in Hong Kong are fighting for their human rights, their human liberties, and it's a pretty big news story. I'm sure you guys have caught it. Now, what happened after that? Well, that's the crazy part, and that's where the dumpster fire comes in. Blizzard Entertainment went ahead and banned Blitzchung, the professional Hearthstone player, from playing Hearthstone officially in their league for 12 months, took away all of his prize winnings as a Hearthstone player, which is totally crazy, and they fired the 2 casters that were on the stream, which ducked behind a desk as soon as Blitzchung went on camera to say this tagline about the protests in Hong Kong. And so people on the internet are pissed. So why would Blizzard Entertainment do this? Why would they fire this professional esports player? Why would they take his money away? Why would they fire these casters for doing something pretty harmless on a stream, just, supporting a cause? Well, it's because they're in China. And Blizzard has significant financial interests in China, where the whole future of their company is riding on the Chinese market. That's why they're developing 2 mobile games per franchise that Blizzard Entertainment has to tap into that juicy Chinese market. And if the Chinese government gets pissed at Blizzard, they could revoke business licenses, and they could ban their games and their IP from their country, and Blizzard could lose billions of dollars. Blizzard could have to sacrifice thousands of employees, and their stock price could tank if they lose basically the future of their company, which is China. So here we are. We're coming up on BlizzCon. Yay! The happiest gaming event on the planet. Yay! Everybody calm down. We're going to do our keynote. Here's all the new games coming up. Everybody's going to be happy, right? Oh boy. I think this year is set up for disaster, boys.
Yeah, I think, and not, again, I didn't realize, parents pointed out earlier that it's actually on Halloween, so I'm sure that's just going to go over great, too. A little more detail into kind of what you said about the mobile games. Activision Blizzard's new game, Call of Duty Mobile, last week it broke every 7-day download record in the history of the world. Over 100 million installs. Now, that game actually hasn't been released in China yet, but Blizzard is currently working with the Chinese government for approval to launch it in that market. Now, the second one, I don't know if you guys remember when Blizzard announced that new Diablo game that everyone was excited for until they actually found out what it was, Diablo Immortal. Now, I imagine that's going to get a launch date probably at BlizzCon this year, but the unofficial word for the release date was in Q4, which is right now. And I think it's also important to note that Blizzard isn't the only developer on this project. The Chinese internet technology company NetEase is also developing the project. So do you know how much money would be lost and left on the table if that would just happen to fall through? And what could be weeks before it launched? I mean, that's potentially billions of dollars just for Call of Duty Mobile alone.
The stakes are super duper high for Blizzard Entertainment, and U.S. companies are not allowed to do business in China. They have to license their IPs to Chinese companies or form business partnerships with Chinese companies. And the government of China has to allow that. So when somebody like Blitzcon comes out and supports Hong Kong protests against Chinese government, Blizzard Entertainment is forced to make a decision. We either A, do what the Chinese government wants, which is lay down the mega ban hammer on this guy and make an example out of this pro player, and anybody that was even on screen, these innocent casters' careers are ruined just because they were there. Or B, they could piss off the Chinese government and lose billions and billions and billions of dollars. So obviously, here in the Western world, people are pissed off because they feel that the punishment against this player for making a simple, more or less harmless statement was way out of bounds, and firing the casters was way too much, and taking the guy's prize earnings away was way too far.
I think that's the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of people, was taking the money back. Like, whoa, okay, like he earned that, and now maybe you don't want him to speak anymore and you want to censor him, but to like punish him in that way, that was like, for me, at least in what I've read from a lot of other comments, was like, that was the thing that was like scumbag enough to piss people off.
Makes sense. I mean, esports players, especially with games that aren't like mega titles, aren't making that much money, right? They're making enough money to live. They might make a little bit of excess, but unless you win the finals of a big tournament, you aren't balling out millionaire here. You know, you maybe are making 5, maybe 6 figures if you're lucky. So taking money away from these guys is devastating. They might have to live at home again. Like, this is like their entire career, and all of their income is being an esports player gone. And you think any sponsor wants to touch this guy now that he's been basically flagged by the Chinese government as being toxic and as being somebody not to do business with? This player and these casters are done-ski. Their career in gaming is over. Forever, basically. I mean, who's going to want to do business with them, and who's going to want to associate themselves with them when they know that they are a most wanted figure, if you will, from the Chinese government within China? So it's really, really heavy-handed punishment on these guys. And on Reddit, I was blown away. This is when I really caught my attention. On Reddit, there are 4 separate posts at the time that we're recording this with over 100,000 upvotes on /news, /politics, /Blizzard, and /Hearthstone with this bad PR for Blizzard. And it's just mega. Those posts are so gilded, cajillions of comments deep, just hitting the front page of Reddit over and over and over again with memes mocking Blizzard Entertainment, mocking Hearthstone, mocking them. And I was like, you know what? This is just going to be a 24-hour thing. This outrage is going to be over. And then the next day, the news story continued where collegiate players, you know, there's like collegiate Hearthstone leagues, you know how college esports leagues are becoming big. The collegiate players in the United States of America put up a sign in support of Hong Kong protests during a live stream. Blizzard Entertainment cut them off of the feed. And then, get this, boys, they turned off all cameras for the collegiate events so that no players could be on camera and could potentially support protests, potentially support human rights, potentially support basic human dignity. Yikes. Then they basically injected Chew-2 fuel into this PR disaster dumpster fire, the super fuel of the future, and it just exploded all over again. Oh boy, is this such a messy, disgusting situation for Blizzard to handle going into their biggest event of the year. Oh my goodness, guys. What do you think's going to happen here at BlizzCon 2019? I mean, can Blizzard clean this thing up? Can Blizzard make BlizzCon the big, happy, fun-loving, hugs and kisses community event it's always been where everybody just loves Blizzard? Or is it going to be a total disaster?
Well, first of all, am I the only one that feels like EA woke up to some Freaky Friday situation at the 1st of October? Like, this just doesn't feel... It just doesn't...
We've seen it before. We've seen this before.
Yeah,
We've
exactly.
Seen it before with EA.
And you know what? And just like that situation, it always blows over. And I know this is such a difficult topic because we're talking about human rights here, but let's just look at the facts since all of this has happened. We are at the peak right now of Blizzgate, as I'm going to call it, all right? I'm looking at the top 10 most streamed games on Twitch right now. 2 of them are Blizzard, World of Warcraft, Overwatch. Okay, Blizzard stock down only 11 cents today, 0.21%. So is Blizzard really, I mean, obviously they're worried about this, but for their bottom dollar at the end of the day, I mean, how much is this actually going to affect their bottom line? Are they that worried, or is this just a situation that's going to completely blow over?
This is why the decision is what it is, because they basically have to sacrifice who they were, and they have to sacrifice the moral values that their company once had to progress in this new era of Chinese business that they want to take into, and that's just more profitable. Like if you look down their core values, and this is what has held Blizzard together as a community-oriented brand for a long time, and one of their 8 core values is every voice matters. And like obviously they were put into a position where in order to do their business, they had to go against their company's own core values. And they had to do that. They were forced to do that because otherwise they would lose so much money. They may not be a company anymore. I don't really know. I don't know how much they could have lost.
Let me ask you this. Did they just do it now, or did they do it when they decided to do business with China in the first place?
I mean, I think the decision was made as soon as we're going to do business with China. Right. Mike Morhaime steps down. The company's obviously going in a new mobile direction. And, for us who were part of Blizzard during the community era of it, that era is gone. And I think we saw that with that Diablo Immortal presentation. Yeah. We saw the detachment. We saw like the disconnect then from the community oriented brand, which we were used to experiencing. I think it's gone and I think it's dead. And I think for them to be able to go in this new direction, they have to almost scorched earth it. And they basically have to play EA like, we make games so good, you might hate us as a company, but you're still going to buy our games, and we bet you will. And that's what it's going to come down to. And it will come down to, will consumers continue to buy Blizzard games? In America, I'm sure they probably will. That's the thing. That's the real truth. And I hate to say it, I'm tired of seeing that. I wish gamers would stand up with their, not just with their voice, but with their pocketbooks and their money a little bit more. But in this case, and they probably know this, it's not going to change a whole lot in their U.S. markets. And we're going to see stuff at BlizzCon for sure. We're going to see people have voices. We're going to see awkward presentations. We're going to see them censoring it as much as possible. I'm talking like pre-screening every question in the panels. I'm talking about having a delay on their live streams or not even be live with it at all, just do a pre-recording. I'm talking censor it full mass. They're going to do all those things because they have to protect their financial interests. And unfortunately, that goes against the human rights of their company.
Yeah.
It's a really, really terrible situation. But they're an American company in a capitalist society. We know what route they're going to take. They're going to go the EA route.
Of course.
We've seen it every single time.
Of course they are, because EA is still making bank. And just like Blizzard will probably continue to make bank. And just for reference, because anybody can Google this and find out, in 2018, Blizzard's annual revenue was $7.26 billion. 5.2% of that, of the total revenue, came from China. Now, that doesn't sound like a huge number, but that's double from 2017. So if it was just 5.2 and a steady little, tiny little, a few percentage here in growth, we may be seeing a little bit different a reaction, but it's double over 1 year, that 5.2%.
And they haven't even released a major product there outside of what the movie. Like the movie did, the World of Warcraft movie did amazing in China, brought back like double what they spent on it. But they actually haven't released like a big title gaming product to China yet, outside of I think diversifying World of Warcraft over there. Please correct me if I'm wrong, guys. So they haven't done a new launch yet. So they already have that amount of their revenue dedicated to China, and the plan is for that to increase dramatically. So they're all in on this. I don't see them playing the card any other way. As much as we all want them to continue to be the Blizzard Entertainment that we know and love, that holds value to their community, that sticks to their core values, that has made them successful. We're seeing the divergence of that, and I wish we could do something about it.
This is all a result of the need for Blizzard Activision to be a stock that experiences indefinite exponential growth. That's the issue. So the thing is, Blizzard Entertainment and Activision have reached basically the top of what they can achieve in the current markets in North America and basically the Western world. And their core audience is PC and, to a certain extent, console, right? Especially on the Activision side with publishing consoles huge. That market is fully tapped. They have the top IPs. They've basically juiced that for everything it's worth for billions and billions of dollars. Okay, now that they have that top position, where do you go from there? That's the issue, is it's all about the stock price and exponential growth for the stock price. And if you always have to grow, not just be big and super profitable, then that means you always have to expand. And there's going to be a point when you have to expand ethically, morally, idealistically beyond the current cultures that you're operating in. And by moving hemispheres, that's exactly what's happening here. And it's because of the stock price that they're having to make those sacrifices to their ethics, their morals, and their core values. I agree with you guys. Blizzard, I predict it right now. Blizzard, their stock is going to continue to go up. It's going to continue to skyrocket, and they're going to make more money than ever 5 years from now. When all these mobile games they're putting together for all their IPs roll out globally, they are going to be approaching EA size, if not bigger than EA in the future, because they have better IP than EA does. And as soon as Blizzard's willing to sacrifice their ethics and go all in on money grab, the money will come flowing in. And I know that people will hope that, like you're saying, gamers will, stick to their guns and they'll, really speak with their wallets, and they won't. They just won't. Yeah. Like some will, a small group won't, but they never do. People are like, don't pre-order, don't do it. Yeah, no, people are going to pre-order. Oh, don't buy their games. They're such a bad company. Yeah, maybe a small percentage do, but for the most part, most people don't even catch up with the news. Most people have no idea this is even going on. If they hear Diablo's on mobile, download. If they hear Overwatch is on mobile, download. If they hear World of Warcraft is on mobile, download. And they're going to be shoveling their money into those apps because they're going to be so heavily monetized out the yin-yang and so disgusting with how they monetize them. They're just going to be raking in billions and billions and billions. And that's the inevitability.
I completely understand that the argument of profit shouldn't necessarily be brought into an ethics argument. So let's just remove profit from the equation and look at this from a job perspective. AWOL, you mentioned this earlier. Remember back in February when Activision Blizzard laid off 800 jobs, roughly 8% of the company's staff? And that was like after record financial results in 2018. So I think we can all agree here that if any of Blizzard's deals in China's fall through, there's not going to be a help wanted sign on the door. It's going to result in thousands and thousands of jobs being lost, which is also an ethical dilemma.
It totally is. We talked about this off podcast. For them, just from an ethical standpoint, sacrificing this one Hearthstone eSports player and these two casters versus potentially sacrificing hundreds and thousands of employees is the ethical decision. People may disagree with me, but I think that that's the business reality of the situation. And they would be mega layoffs. If they lost that market and they're like, we can't operate in China, stockholders are going to look at that and analysts are going to look at that and go, but hold on a second. China is the future of gaming. China is where all the growth is. China is where mobile gaming is exploding, and mobile gaming is the majority of revenue. And you're telling me your company can't break into that? Stock dives. People lose their jobs instantly by the thousands. It's exactly what would happen. And so if you're in that executive's position, I know people are turning these executives into these evil villains that are making evil decisions just for money. But the utilitarian decision here, let's go to philosophy class here. You've got a utilitarian decision. Swerve the car left, you kill 3 people. Swerve the car right, you kill 1,000. Which way are you going to swerve the car, amigo?
I feel like there's got to be a different way. Like, there's a big uprising in terms of, and we haven't talked about this yet, of like deleting accounts. And a lot of people saw this news and like, you know what, this is it. I was liking playing, classic World of Warcraft. Again, it was nice, but I'm done. This is it. Like, I'm canceling my account. They got on to go cancel their account, and they found out all 4 of the authentication methods online to cancel your account were disabled by Blizzard because such an uprising of account disabling and people unsubscribing and deleting their accounts was happening that Blizzard stopped it, which I believe, and please feel free to fact check me on this, but it should be illegal. According to their terms of service. There always has to be an ability for people to be able to cancel their service, and you can't withdraw that from your customer, your consumer. Like, that is fishy for sure. So now we've crossed from a moral dilemma of like, do I swerve the car left or do I swerve the car right? Or do I commit a crime in order to protect profits? And that is a whole different territory that's, a company that like Blizzard going down that route. It's like one of the villains from their video games, like turning and shifting and going evil. It's not the Blizzard we know and used to love, and maybe that's the course for them here. But morally, that's wrong. And if you want to cancel your account, you should be able to. And I was pretty excited to see that people were driven to be able to go cancel their account and do something about this, because this is a way that they can actually have an impact and do something. Right. But to be denied that right, that is frustrating. That's extremely frustrating, and that's even more. That's adding more immoral behavior on top of immoral behavior, all because they wanted to censor someone's voice. And it's just wrong on top of wrongs on top of wrongs. 2 wrongs don't make a right. 3 wrongs certainly don't make a right, even if it's for profits.
In our swerve left, swerve right example, you guys were like, well, you could just hit the brakes. And you were like, yeah. So what is hitting the brakes then? In this, like, what is the alternative that isn't killing anyone in this example? Obviously, killing is not what they're doing. It's firing. But what is hitting the brakes here for Blizzard?
Oh, hitting the brakes would have been never doing a deal with China to begin with. Are you kidding me? Their foot's on the accelerator right now. I can't imagine being in this situation of Blizzard's CEO. And actually, it's going to be interesting because we're going to see 2 different sides of how this could play out. We have Blizzard in the right corner, who has, pretty much put a halt. They're pretty much putting a censor on anything. And over in the left corner, we have the NBA, who came out and said, at first in their release, in their statement to China, they kind of said something along the lines that we're disappointed. And then Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, came out and said, listen, it is what it is. We back free speech. So we're going to get to see 2 massive companies, $2 billion companies. We're kind of going to get to see how this plays out, if it plays out in any direction. I think in this situation, it's going to be like an Occam's razor. Most likely scenario is going to play out and nothing happens to either of them.
I think it's going to be lies. I think both the NBA and Blizzard and all of them are going to lie. So I think what's going to happen, and we already saw this from Blizzard, is they're going to say one thing in Western markets that sounds like they support free speech, that sounds like they support freedom, and it sounds like they were the company that they always were. And then in China, they're going to release a completely different statement that sounds pro-China, pro-censorship, and pro-Chinese government is the best ever. I think it's just going to be lies and PR doublespeak in 2 different markets rather than actually sticking to your guns in both.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Exxon situation with the Gulf oil spill when their CEO came out and made all those commercials. We're so sorry. And then, behind the curtains, drill, same spot. It's like, you're not sorry. And you're right. I think we're going to get a lot of the same of that. And unfortunately, it's probably going to, just like every other situation, probably be swept under the rug.
It's going to work. It's totally going to work. But
absolutely. So
everybody else out there that's like, oh no, this is so doom and gloom. Why am I even listening to this podcast? Well, you may get some retribution and some payback, I guess you could say, at BlizzCon 2019. It could be a dumpster fire of a lifetime just to behold all of the terrible things and terrible stories that are going to come out of this event. So realistically, Perrin, What do you think is going to come out of BlizzCon 2019? What do you think the stories are going to be? And how do you think the public and the media is going to react to this event?
I think if you watch the event through the virtual ticket, you won't see anything crazy. I don't think you're going to see much crazy at all. But if you listen on social media, you're going to be hearing about all the different ways in which people are being censored and trying to combat those censorships. And you're going to be seeing different gamers that you might know from Twitch, etc., or whatever, trying to have a voice about this at this specific event. And the story of them being censored by Blizzard. We're going to be having a lot of that kind of like underground, like leaking, this is how they're trying to censor us type thing. While the event on its surface level appearance seems just fine. Nothing seems crazy. You might have the one or two mix up at a panel presentation where they pre-screen questions, but you've got one guy, this was my prediction earlier, you've got one guy or girl who will stand up and they don't read their pre-screen question. They ask them, do you guys not even have morals or something similar like that? Just to draw attention to the issues and to have a voice and to create a statement at the actual event itself. So you might have something like that get through during one of like the panels. It sounds like what you were saying before, Ross, that they might actually announce the release of Diablo Immortals at this. If that's the case, it could be very, very interesting. A protest move could be adding negative downvotes to that announcement, etc., impacting sales as much as possible on that, etc., if that happens during the event. Esports casts will be the ones to watch out for. If they are actually live, which I highly doubt, look for the crowd shots and see the signs that people are holding in the crowd. They're probably going to have a plan for that, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. Multiple minutes of tape delay to remove any shots that contain anything related to Hong Kong. Of course. I mean, people are going to try to get through. I think one or two things will actually get through on the broadcast. Like, there's no way they can be perfect at censorship, but they will try their very best. And Ross, what do you think is going to happen here? What's the worst that's going to come out of this in terms of PR items that are actually going to punch through and be stories that we hear about as the public?
Well, first of all, and I don't think it is, but BlizzCon is not broadcast in China, correct?
I don't know.
I don't either.
It's direct. You could buy access on DirecTV and you can get a digital ticket. I don't know if you can access the event in China. I assume you can't because not all of the IPs at BlizzCon are available in China. So I assume that you can't get access to it in China.
Okay, then I see one of two situations happening, assuming that this is not being broadcast live in China. I think situation number one, I think they're going to keep everything status quo because kind of like I pointed out earlier, their games are still incredibly popular. Their stock price isn't moving. Why change up now? Yeah, it's going to suck. There's going to be interruptions and things like that. And unfortunately, it's not going to be fair to the developers who are up there trying to give a presentation, kind of like what Andrew Perrin and I were talking about this morning. You know, that I can't even imagine having to be a developer, something you've worked so hard up there, and you're going to go up there and probably take the brunt of it. But I see a situation where not a whole lot happens, especially if it's not being broadcast in China. Situation two is I think BlizzCon could go the way, it may be too late now, but kind of do a Nintendo Direct situation where it's just all pre-recorded and they show the video and everything like that. And maybe that is all that is broadcast, and they keep, you know, the Q&A and stuff like that. They save that, they record that, edit out whatever they need to, and then, you know, maybe air that at a different time. But I can see, if not this year, I can see a lot of gaming companies, especially now, because they're all taking notes about what's going on here. I can see a lot of them going in the direction of Nintendo Direct.
That's a good point. I think that people that buy the BlizzCon digital ticket do have the expectation to get the content live, and I think that is the promise that they provide those consumers. So I don't think that Blizzard is going to be that hard on the censorship this year. I think they are going to, I think their ego is going to get in the way a little bit here. And I think that they still believe that BlizzCon can be a really positive event. And I still think that they believe that if they announce great games and they tell audiences about all the amazing things that are happening at Blizzard, and they give some vague statement, they will give some sort of vague statement in the keynote at the beginning, the opening ceremonies, talking about how they support everyone's voice and stuff like that. I think their ego will get in the way, and they will think that's good enough, and everyone will be happy with that. And then they're going to release Diablo Immortal. They're going to announce Diablo 4, and they're going to announce an additional game, probably an Overwatch game. And they think that will be enough to shut everybody up. But the problem is, it won't be. And they are not going to put all those measures into place that we just talked about. And because they underestimate the ire of the community still, despite the backlash that's happening right now, there's going to be significant protest that's going to punch through in their broadcasts and be a total disaster. I'm predicting a 15 out of 10 PR freaking nightmare disaster at this event. I don't think they will be the scenario where it's going to be okay, where it's going to be kind of swept under the rug. I think it's going to be a total shit show. I'm calling it right now. And it's only because Blizzard isn't ready as a company yet. The North American employees, event planners, executives, community team that's currently working at Blizzard is not prepared to implement China-level censorship on their North American audience. These are California Democrat liberal employees for the most part that are working at Blizzard here. Okay? For them to all of a sudden flip a switch and be willing to implement China-level censorship at their community event that they all love and have been running for decades ain't gonna happen. This thing's gonna go way off the rails. I'm calling it now. It's gonna be fucking awful.
That's a good point. They've already, a lot of, or at least some of the current Blizzard employees have shown their disagreement with what has happened here. And I'm sure we will see that at the convention. You can't control everybody. Also, Blizzard isn't a company that's used to having to control everybody, including their workforce. So we might actually see some rebellion there too. I think you've got a good point. This is going to be potentially the event, the gaming event to attend or to behold of 2019. It just might be the most insane dumpster fire of an event we've seen in a long time, if ever.
Yeah. All those tensions between US and China going to express themselves through this event. All those tensions between Democrats and Republicans going to express themselves through this event. All of the Trump drama, all of the international relations drama, all of the trade war drama, it's all going to kind of play itself out in a certain way live for us all to watch at BlizzCon 2019. And it is going to be so cringy. It is going to be painful to watch. And ultimately, Blizzard will make billions of dollars afterwards.
So let me ask you this. Let me reverse your question that you just had, kind of. I think we all agree that this is just going to be one giant shit show, more than likely. What's the best outcome possible at this point for Blizzard? Like, at what point, if there even is one, where at the end of BlizzCon 2019, we say, okay, Blizzard wins? Is there one? I don't think there is.
The best possible outcome for them is this event is a total slobber knocker of a disaster. And then they have to go back to the drawing board in terms of how they handle their PR moving forward. Then they examine competitors that are like them in the market now. And the most comparable competitor is EA. And they're going to now operate their PR and their community management like EA does. And so BlizzCon, that's exactly what's going to happen. And it is the best outcome for Blizzard. And so they're going to do an EA Play style event in the future where there are these pre-planned presentations that are mostly pre-recorded, but it's mostly an experience that you can physically go to play the games, an experience for media people and creators to come to demo games and to get interviews, and not so much a presentation or a live event to behold, right? So any presentations in the future that will happen at BlizzCon will be, like you're saying, Nintendo Direct style and will be mostly pre-recorded and completely controlled. And the whole transparent Q&A session and transparent developers out on stage for 15, 20 minutes at a time talking about what they love, all that stuff is going to go away. And then the eSports portion of BlizzCon is going to be broken off, and it's not going to be at BlizzCon anymore. And they're going to do esports events independent outside of BlizzCon and remove it. Because you can't take away the live portion of esports, you take away the value. So they're going to break esports off of BlizzCon. You get me? They're going to go EA Play on this. They're going to take pages from the EA playbook, and that's going to be best for Blizzard. Is that going to be best for the North American consumer? No. But I think that's the inevitability after they get just totally stomped in the dirt from the total PR disaster this event is going to be.
I remember the big transition in the past when Blizzard North left Blizzard, and we all thought that was the end. And then they made World of Warcraft, and it kind of kept going. And like now, now I'm really kind of missing those Blizzard North people.
Thank you so much for listening to The Digital Dump, not the Digital Drop podcast. I don't know. We really wanted to riff on BlizzCon. We didn't want it to be under the normal Digital Drop name because this is more or less outside of what we normally do. If we encourage you to subscribe to our podcast on the podcasting platform of your choice so you don't miss weekly episodes, which are normally about helping creators go full time, not taking a digital dump, not talking about highly controversial topics, but we just couldn't ignore this one because we're all just old school Blizzard fans that are seeing this whole thing play out in front of our eyes, and we just had to talk about it and get this off of our chest.